Hello, my name is Rebecca Richardson, but most people call me Becky, and today we're going to be doing the Authortube Newbie Tag because I'm an Authortube newbie. So we'll just get straight into it. Question 1. How did you find out about Authortube? I actually found out about Authortube through YouTube recommendations. There was a few videos that started to get recommended to me, and it was quite different because I've never actually seen writing videos on YouTube. I've always been aware of BookTube, but I've never really looked into it until lately. And then writing videos started to come up and I was like, oh hey, I'll check that out. And then I just fell down a hole of watching far too many of them. But it's been good because it helps me actually focus on my own writing more. Question 2. What genres do you write in? So I write YA fantasy, which is what it is, isn't it? I've always preferred fantasy just because I read to escape the real world, and so dragons and fairies and all the rest of it is so beyond anything that we face in the real world that it just works, and it's what I enjoy reading too, so might as well write it. Question 3. What is your preferred writing tense, point of view and category of story? So my preferred tense is past. I don't think I could even write in present tense. It just, I don't know, I sometimes read books in present tense, but it messes with my head a bit, and I don't think I could write it. Point of view. At the moment, I'm writing in first person for, I don't know, whatever reason. It's been working good for this series, and I quite like it to get specifically into one character's head and their thoughts, but I prefer reading, and I found lately I prefer writing in third person, so everything going forward after the book I'm writing at the moment will probably be in third person, just because it allows you the freedom to kind of swap between different point of views as well, and it just sits better with me. Question 4. Are you a plotter, pantser or plantser? And I'd say I'm a plantser just because I've never been an outliner. I don't sit and work out chapter by chapter or scene by scene what's going to happen. In fact, I tend to go into a book not knowing when the chapters are. It's just I reach a point and I'm like, that'll do, that could be the beginning of the new chapter. But I do have a very rough outline of the basic plot points that are going to be in it, just to stop myself from going off on tangents that I never return from, because if I didn't have that outline, that's all I would do. So in that aspect, I do plan, and I plan the characters, but again, not in much detail. I prefer to let them kind of develop on their own through the beginning of the story. But yeah, I can't go into it just completely blind with no idea what's going on. I need that basic outline there to make sure I don't go off with it. Question 5. Are you self-published, published or yet to be published? Currently I am self-published. I've been self-publishing since I was 15, just as a way to practice, I think, and learn my voice as a writer and what I want to work with. But after this trilogy, which I'm on to the last one, after I finish it, I would really like to be traditionally published. So what I move on to at the end of the year will be a manuscript that I would eventually like to query with, but that's far in the future. I'm trying not to think about that end of it yet. Question 6. What publishing company, literary agent and or printing company are you represented by or use? And if you're not yet published, what is your dream publishing house and or literary agent? So I don't have an agent or anything yet. Obviously I self-published, and I prefer not to think too far ahead to it. I think it's every author's dream who wants to be traditionally published to want like the big publishing house that's gonna, you know, get you out there. But I'm not gonna name any just because it sounds stupid, but I'm always slightly concerned that I could sit here now and be like, yeah, I want this publishing house, and then down the line another one could be like, hey, we'll take you on, and then they, I don't know, somehow find this video and be like, oh, but she prefers a rival publishing house, which sounds so stupid. But I don't know. Question 7. What Authortube related videos can we expect to see on your channel? So I want to focus mainly on making light of writing and, you know, maybe vlogging a bit of my own writing and giving some advice, although I don't plan on giving too much advice because personally I don't feel like I'm in a position to be giving lots of advice. I just leave that to the professionals, I guess. But yeah, I'd like to focus mainly on my journey with writing and documenting the process with my serious project, as I'm calling it at the moment, that I'm starting for Nano. And just seeing how that goes and connecting with people and sort of just having fun with it, because I feel writing can become really stressful sometimes, and I think it'll be quite fun just to be able to kind of keep things light and have a bit of fun with it and have a laugh about it, but in a way that everyone can relate to. Question 8. When did you start writing? So, in terms of actual books, I started my first when I was 12. That was when I started planning it, and then I kind of left it, and then I went back to it when I was 14, and then I self-published at 15. But in terms of like actually the first time I sat down and like wrote something will have been, God, when I was really small. Since I could write, basically. I remember sitting in reception and the teacher would be like, write about what you did at the weekend, and I'd be like, yes. Can't wait. It's just always been something I've enjoyed doing. 9. What was the first story you ever wrote? So, in general, it was a short story I wrote on post-it notes, like, when I was really small, probably when I was like 5 or 6, and it was called The Grumpy Sunshine, and The Grumpy Sunshine was about a mouse, with full drawings of the mouse, obviously, who had realised the weather was bad, and it turned out that the weather was bad because the sun was sad. So the mouse told a joke to the sun, and then the sun wasn't grumpy anymore, and all of the sun came back out and everybody had a nice summer day. But in terms of actual proper storytelling, the first I can remember was a short story I wrote for a competition when I was in year 8, I think, and it had to be set in the town I was living at the time, but I didn't want to actually write in the town, so I found a bit of a loophole in it, and I wrote about this alternate dimension that looked like the town, but there was like elves and things, and everything was back to front and all very weird, and there was like people riding tigers down the streets and that kind of thing, and yeah, it's still one of my favourites. Question 10. What authors have inspired your writing the most? So I think the obvious one that everyone says is J.K. Rowling. You know, I grew up with Harry Potter, so that's like the obvious one to say. But more recently, Cassandra Clare, because she writes in the genre I write in and that I read in, and I've sort of followed her books for like my entire teen years so far. So like, that would make sense, and I think she has like the life I want to live. Like, I have a vision board somewhere that there's a picture on it of Cassandra Clare's cat that I think's called Reginald, with her laptop open with Lord of Shadows on it, and I remember just seeing that and being like, that's the life I want. I want to be sat writing my best-selling book with my cat. That's all I want. So Cassandra Clare. Question 11. Do you schedule your writing sessions or just write whenever you find time? I just write whenever I find time. With college and everything else, it is just a case of when I can sit down and write, and also when I'm not too busy procrastinating. I haven't written in about a month, which is really bad because I've had exams and things happening, so I had to prioritise that. And then suddenly last night I sat and edited 25,000 words, and you know, it took me like half of the day, but I did it, and that wasn't planned, and then I probably won't get much writing done for the rest of the week. You know, it's all just random, and whenever I actually think to myself, like, look, you've got to sit down, you've got to get it done, it has to happen. But yeah, I'm not one of these people who's like, 500 words a day minimum, like, I just can't. I can't do it. Question 12. Do you type on a computer, typewriter, write everything out by hand, or a blend of those? And where do you write in general? I mainly type on a computer, like mainly my laptop. When I first started writing, everything was done by hand, and I just write it out. My first book, I wrote like 40 pages of it in my notebook, and then I had to copy it back out, and only like 3 lines of dialogue actually made it to the final draft. But now it's all on computer. Sometimes I'll like edit by hand, I'll print it off and then annotate it like on paper, because I find that works quite well for me, but not very often because that's a lot of time and paper. And where do I write in general? I write at my desk, which is where the camera is right this moment. That's on this chair. That's where I write all the time. And final question 13, what are you most looking forward to now that you are a part of Authortube? I'm most looking forward to the community, which I talked about in my first video, and being able to connect with people and share these interests that we all have, and just to make the business of it seem slightly less stressful than it sometimes does. I don't have really any friends who write as well, so watching YouTube videos is how I kind of get that relatable content. So, that would be a nice side of it. I'm also looking forward to being able to process my own journey with writing, and especially the serious project for Nano, and just being able to look back at that and see it, and hopefully kind of talk to other people about their projects, and just that side of it, the community and the connecting with other people. I'm very excited. So that's all for me for now. That's all of the questions. I will be posting 2 times a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, so if you like what you see, you know where the subscribe button is. And please feel free to leave a comment so I can interact with some people, as I was saying a moment ago, community and all that. Thank you so much. I will see you next time. Bye!